Welcome aboard the Spirits Operator podcast. I'm your host, psychic medium Mary B. Join me as we navigate the ethereal currents between the mystical and the mundane. Get ready to explore the unseen forces shaping our world and discover how to harness their power for personal growth, healing, and transformation. I'd like to introduce Mario Valencia, a lifelong New Mexican. He's deeply connected to the rich culture and traditions of the Middle Rio Grande Valley, drawing inspiration from generations before him. With an impressive knowledge of New Mexican history, folklore, and spirituality, Mario is passionate about sharing stories that honor the past. An advocate for the arts, he performs with 2 musical groups and previously sang in the opera Before Night Falls. As board vice chair and vice president of membership for the New Mexico Gay Men's Chorus, Mario uses his voice to uplift, educate, and promote equality through music and storytelling. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for coming today. I have Mario Valencia, who's a friend of mine from elementary school, on the podcast. Thanks for coming.
Mary, it's been a long time.
It sure has. I know.
Since I've seen you.
I know. And I've been, Facebook stalking you as we do. And so I have you on the podcast today because I love what you've shared on your Facebook in the past year, and what that surrounded, or what that is the Dia de los Muertos. And I also know you have all kinds of other fun stories and things like that we're going to get into. But I really want to focus on this because I think it's really important. And if you want to tell those that are unfamiliar about what is Dia de los Muertos.
So I'm going to preface this by saying that I didn't grow up, having an official Dia de los Muertos, day, or, where you see the people have those elaborate tables or the altars. It kind of happened as I got older. What's kind of sparked it for me was watching the movie Coco.
I love that.
From Disney. And, it was just a beautiful movie. It was just vibrant and the music was great. And, you can get so many different stories out of that movie.
Yes.
I thought, okay, well,
why
let's
not,
do this officially. Right? And I'm an insurance agent, and I'm actually here in my office right now. And my boss, she's so spiritual and she just lets us kind of do different things. And I told her, I said, hey, I used to watch Coco, and I think I want to do this altar or ofrenda. That's what we call it. She's like, let's do it. And we did a small one there in the corner, and it was, you could feel something in the air that day, and it was a little bit thick, and we all just kind of felt great after that day. So I told her, I said, okay, going forward, if you let me, I'm going to go big. And she said, let's do it. So I took some time to research, what Dia de los Muertos was, why people do it. And I realized that, traditionally it's not just for one day, it's for 7 days. It should be really called Semana de los Muertos because it's a week, for the dead, starting on the 28th of October. So it runs through Halloween up through November 3rd, is when you take everything down. The actual Dia de los Muertos, or the Day of the Dead, is on November 2nd. So, it's by the time you get to the end, you've been with them for a week.
Yeah.
And each day you add different offerings based on what you were honoring that day. Like, for example, one of the days, I think it's on the day after Halloween. Let me see, look at my notes here. It's actually the day after Halloween, All Saints Day. You put toys and candy on the ofrenda because you are welcoming those that have lost their lives young, children. The children visit you on that day. So you want to make your offerings based on, okay, who's going to come that day, what's going to, make them happy, joyful to stay. On actually the Dia de los Muertos, it's the adult day when they come back. So that day you're putting extra food, you're putting a bottle of tequila on that table.
Of
You know, you're
course.
you're bringing those elements that make those people joyful and happy, and you'll just kind of remember how it was when they were in this realm and not that
So you're
realm.
sharing it with them.
So it definitely, yeah. And um, I've always had this interesting, or this relationship with death and dying. My dad died when I was 10 years old in a car accident. And, I was always just really scared. I guess that's a natural thing as
Sure.
a kid too, to be kind of scared of death. But, my dad died tragically and fast, and I was young. And, you know, it was, growing up and actually being part of like the dying process and seeing grandparents die. It's a very personal
Yeah.
thing to be part of, and you know and you're when you see them transition, you're in that moment, and it's really undescribable. And so having the ofrenda for me is like, okay, you know this is what I feared at one point. I've come to terms with what my fear is, and now I'm embracing it, and you know making it
That sounds
joyful.
very healing.
And you know it is very healing. Death is, it feels very final. And I think, just like in the movie Coco, you have that responsibility to remember those people that have passed, to keep tradition alive, keep culture alive, talk to your kids about, their ancestry,
Yes.
and get them excited that, you know, where they were and where we are now, and to really celebrate that. And that's what I love about Dia de los Muertos, or Semana de los Muertos, because you have that full week
Yes.
just to celebrate
I
that.
love that. And I'm glad that you've gotten to this point where you feel ready for that. That you're at a
Hmm.
point in your life where
Yeah.
you're ready to kind of heal into it and get connected to them in this way. Now, do you
Hmm.
think that, because I know that people talk about culture and that there's, you go into Walmart, you go into Target, and you see all of this stuff there. How would someone
Yeah.
who didn't grow up with it, and I know you didn't grow up with it, but you grew up in a culture that would
Hmm.
support that.
Hmm.
So I'm here now in Florida. That is definitely not the traditions of the area here, but I would
Right.
love to
Right.
do it. So how does one even begin? Like, what do you think about that?
When I say that I never had the official ofrenda or the altar set up in my house, I think, being from a culture that's very family
Mm-hmm.
oriented, you just I guess I've always done it without even realizing
Ah,
it. You know, having pictures up of your loved ones in your home, having a candle right by them. You
yeah.
know, that's an offering. That's remembering them. Um, you know, New Mexico is a very magical time this time of year, into the burn months. And you know in Bernalillo, I'm from a little town in Bernalillo. It's called Bernalillo, which is north of Albuquerque. We're kind of like the crossroads between Albuquerque and Santa Fe, and we're surrounded by mountains and the Rio Grande, and then you have all of these Native American
Yes.
pueblos around you. So you're just kind of immersed in it. And you know, in New Mexico during Christmas, we do
Yes, I
luminarias,
love that.
or favoritos, or what people call them. And I don't know if we ever realized it until my dad had passed, but people would take the luminarias to their gravesite,
Oh,
and they will light it up on Christmas Eve.
oh, I didn't know that.
And you know, so now it is so huge, Mary. I mean, the whole cemetery is just full. You walk in there, and it's just almost like a late fall,
How
early
beautiful.
winter Dia de los Muertos, because it just feels like that. The light, you're giving them light to come back and be part of the celebration
Mm.
again. Those, you could do those type of
Is this the
things.
little cemetery over by the highway? The Bernalillo Cemetery?
Little cemetery
When
by the
when
highway.
you're over
It's
there, you
it's
say hi to my great grandma for me, okay?
I'll do it. Yeah,
Thank
I'll
you.
do it. Um, I think we all have at least one great grandma in
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
cemetery. So yeah, but there's just so many things one can do, and if they want to, officially, celebrate the holiday, if you will, you know, set up a table, get yourself some type of covering for that table. There's some certain elements that you want to have on that table, and they're just things you can get around your house. Really, they there's a flower, the marigold, for
Yeah.
example. It's called the flor de muerto, I think it
Okay.
is. So the flower of the dead, and they are not the best smelling flower, really. But the tradition is that musky
Mm-hmm.
smell entices the souls, the spirits to come and visit you.
Oh.
So you always have those marigolds on the table. You have salt on the table. I'm sure you know this. Salt is can be used to purify.
Yes.
So you put the salt on there to purify the spirits and the souls that are coming. You put I don't know if you ever seen like those banners or those like tissue
Oh
paper.
yeah. Yeah.
Mostly you probably see them in plastic, sometimes in the tissue paper. They're called papel picado or perforated
Perforated
paper.
paper.
And you put these on your altar so the spirits can go through and have a place to go
Oh,
through. And it's
that's
crazy,
so
right? And
interesting.
then the you know how tissue paper is so
It is.
delicate. It also just has a reminder of how delicate life is.
Yeah.
So you add those on there too.
Okay.
So you have these few elements, and then of course, your photographs of those that have gone. You know, you want to add things that are joyful or things that they loved in life.
Okay.
If they were a musician, and they played the trumpet, put the trumpet on there, put the guitar on there. Just it's a great way to really remember them the way that you remember them when they were the most happiest.
Okay.
And you just want to just every day just add these. If you decide to do it for the full week, you know add the different elements on there. When you get to the end, you have this full ofrenda that's just you don't know where to look, and it's just abundant.
Oh,
And taking it down is it's a little sad, to be honest,
yeah.
because you spent that week with these your loved ones and friends, and you're saying goodbye to them for a year, and you take apart, you take down every element, every offering, and it just kind of lets you reflect on your week as well, why you put it up there. That trumpet on there was for whoever, hope they're still
Playing in the spirit.
loving their trumpet music or
Yeah.
whatever. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? So it can become very personal, and yeah, it's I can't say anything. It's magical, really. And during that week, like I said, I really felt these spirits, these souls around me. And like I said, it was some days were really
Yeah.
heavy, because it was just I was getting a lot of people asking me to add to my ofrenda. And here in the office we were having like stuff off the
Yeah.
walls. And one day, every day you light a candle, to commemorate that day you're offering. And we I'm an insurance agency, so I really can have stuff burning all day
Right.
long. So we have those little tea lights. So every day we would light a tea light, as our candle. And one day I had to leave early. So I told my counterpart, I said, look, I'm taking off. I turned off all the candles on the ofrenda, so you don't have to worry about it when you go. And she said, great. She sent me a text message like an hour later. The lights were back on.
Haha.
And she's like, I thought you turned them off. I said, I didn't turn them off. She sent me a picture of it. They weren't ready to say goodbye yet that
Oh.
day. So, it's just the feeling, it really, you know, my dad, for example, bringing my dad back for that week and hanging out with him, it was great.
Wow.
We lost a friend a couple years ago. I graduated high school with her. I don't think you knew her, but she was just an amazing person in life. And I put her picture up on the ofrenda,
Is it Rosalva?
and I just who is
Rosalva?
it?
Was it her?
Rosalva.
Oh, I know
Yes.
her.
She was such a light in earth,
Yes.
on earth, and having her and spending that week with her,
Mm,
it was just
that's going to make me cry.
it was fun. It really, but
Yes.
like I said, it was, and that's how it is. You have to, you go into it knowing that it's going to be somewhat
Yes, it
emotional,
is.
to remember your loved ones, but at the end, it's just like, wow, I got to have one more week with them,
Yes. Yes.
and I'm so looking forward to this year. We're so into it. My boss is ready. She goes, "Look what I bought for the ofrenda." She's
I
starting to
love
like put
it.
stuff
You're
already, and
inspirational.
it's gonna be huge.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Well, I'm
So
going to tell you,
mhm.
I don't know if you know this about me since we haven't really talked in a long time, but I work as a professional psychic
Mhm.
medium. And so I
Okay.
bring in people's loved ones and communicate with them. Um, and
Hmm.
I just want to remind you that you can always have that connection. And I'm sure you're amplifying it during this time, of the Dia de los Muertos where
Hmm.
the veil is thinner. But they always hear you. Even if you don't feel them
Yeah.
directly, they hear you. So keep that close to your heart because that's so true. So, so true.
Yeah. I totally believe
Yeah.
it.
Oh my goodness. Now, I have a question. What do you do with all of the
Hmm.
offerings?
I, I was gonna bring that up too. You know, I didn't just want to
Yeah,
throw
I
them
know. Like,
away.
how do you do
Because
that?
it was like you just have everything thrown away, and so I actually because I had to, like, all the names that people were giving me, I was just typing them up, putting them into a
Yeah.
bowl of salt,
Yes.
actually. And so when I got home, I made like a little bonfire and I burned all the names. I kept a lot of the pictures because I want to
Of
use them
course. Yeah.
again. But like, because we added fruit and bread, and we even one of the days you add water, because they're thirsty on their journey back.
Yes.
And so all of these things, I went because we live pretty close to the mountains here in Albuquerque. I went to the Sandia Mountains, and I just kind of just put the stuff back to
Oh, I
nature,
love that.
and um, it was just I didn't want to throw it away. I mean, it was things that were going to be biodegradable
Yeah.
anyway, and it just felt like, okay, I got to be with these things for a week as well. But they're back to nature,
Oh,
and
I love this so
then
much.
it felt better than just throwing them.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
And I think, the animals probably loved that and were able to get
you know,
their food on.
yeah. Who knows? There might be an apple tree growing in the Sandia Mountains because I threw out a rotting apple.
You
Who
never
knows?
know. I've seen that happen in a
Yeah,
creek before in
yeah,
Colorado, so
yeah.
it's totally
Uh-huh.
possible. Oh my
Hmm.
goodness. Okay, so now you've got your offerings. Do you incorporate music or art in the ofrenda?
Yeah. So, based on what my bio is, I sing,
Yes.
and I sing in a couple of groups, and so music to me is, I mean, that's my
Yeah.
therapy every single day. I listen to music. I listen to all kinds of music, and you know, I was researching again because I wanted to kind of do this right. Do you play music for you know for the part of being part of the ofrenda? What kind of music do you play? And it's it's interesting, but if you go on YouTube, they actually have Dia de los Muertos
What?
playlists
I
that
love
you
it.
can download.
I'm gonna have to
And
look at that.
the music is it's very like folk guitar Mexican
Hmm.
music, but very very soothing. Um, but it's encouraged that you play music though that those people that you're honoring on your ofrenda
Okay.
liked. They like rock music, play rock music.
Yeah.
They like Spanish music, play the Spanish music. Whatever because they're celebrating with you. So music is joyful,
Yes.
and so you want to play music that's going to just make them happy to be
Oh, I
back.
bet that's
And
emotional.
so this last year when we did it, there was one day where I was playing that YouTube list, and it was really kind of cool music. But the next day, I'm like, you know what? I had an aunt on there, and my aunt, she loved like 1970s slow
I
rock,
love it.
like kind of cholo kind of music, and so that's what I played that day, and it felt good, it felt right to play it that
Yeah.
day, and and it kind of just changes, fits. It's a different aspect of the mood of the week too, just having that music
Do you
playing,
feel like you felt
and
her presence
and
when
I
you played it for her? Did you kind of?
oh no, no, I did. It takes you back to the time when they were alive, and you remember them
Yes.
listening to that music. And my dad's family especially was very musical. Like for every holiday, we would get together. Somebody would bring out a guitar, and you sit there. You like for Christmas, you open gifts, you eat, get the guitar out, and you're starting to sing
Oh,
songs
that's
all
cool.
together. And it took me back to when I was a kid, and just my dad
Mm,
singing, my aunt there playing the guitar. It
that's
took me back,
special.
and it made me feel so connected to them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was talking about Coco
Mm-hmm.
earlier. So I sing with the New Mexico Gay Men's Chorus, and we're a pretty big chorus. And this past summer we did a concert called Orgullo. In Spanish, that means pride. And so we sang a lot of, well, it was all Latinx type
Mm-hmm.
music. And our music director, artistic director, he actually included a suite of songs from Coco
Oh, how
in there.
nice.
So we sang 3 songs from Coco, and it got me so excited for October and November, because it was like, oh, I
It set it
remember,
all up for you.
I remember how I felt. Yeah, and just and music, we were able to collaborate with a all female mariachi group, which is
Oh,
very
wow. I've
rare to
never
have
seen
just all
that.
females. Oh, it
I
was
bet.
gorgeous. They sound so good. And we were singing one of the songs from Coco called "Remember
I
Me,"
remember that.
and when the mariachis, she turned around, she looked at us, and she started crying. She's just like, "This is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard." And she goes, "It just reminds me of my abuelo, my abuela when I was a young, when I was a kid." And so music just, I think it's a very an acute way of remembering somebody, because it sparks
It really
memories.
does.
And so if you do the ofrenda, I really encourage you, play some music.
Okay.
You know, Again, I work in an insurance agency, so I couldn't
Right.
blast it. But when I didn't have customers, man, it was blasting, and it felt good. It felt good.
I love
Uh-huh.
that. And
Yeah.
you're inspiring me to do
Hmm.
it because I've always loved it. I may have figurines in the house. I have things on the walls, and I've even painted my face during the Halloween. I mean,
Hmm.
I don't know why I haven't even taken that step to do it, and I think maybe just because of not knowing. So, but that's not an excuse in these days, considering you can research anything and ask people. So I'm really, really glad you're
Well,
here.
I think though, and I think though too, it's the not knowing, and you know, how do I say it, cultural
Yes.
appropriateness. Do you know, do I delve in that? And these things aren't just for one culture. They're us as human
Thank
beings,
you.
to
Yes.
connect. And if it happens to be, you know, through Mexico, then so be it. But it's just one of those, you can, however you feel like you want to remember those ones that have passed, then do it. If it's a small table, it's big like we do it. Whatever you want to do, but just take that time, because we are such in a hustle bustle
Yes.
world that we don't like my dad, for example. He's been gone for 33 years. I don't think about him every day anymore, because I just it's been so long. I'm busy. I have things going
Yeah.
on, but it's important though to tell my nieces and nephew, hey, this is your Uncle Mario or your Grandpa Mario. He was a great guy. He liked music. He liked to play sports. Let's talk about him.
Yes.
So, they'll never get a chance to meet him, but through me, they can get to know him. They can get to know my aunt. They can get to know my grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a really it, it's just a good time to do it. I mean, you're just before the holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, and those holidays can be hard for people that have lost loved ones,
Absolutely.
right? So you spend some time with them before Christmas and before Thanksgiving, and you're just like, okay, you're ready for the holidays because you
You
know
have comfort with them.
that they're good.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
that's
totally.
perfect timing. I mean, considering the loss that can happen. And
Hmm.
oh my goodness. I'm racing
Yeah.
in my mind of all the things that I want to do in my head, to put out there. I really
Hmm.
think that it's going to be very healing, and we've lost a few people in the last few years here as well, and so it's like, okay, maybe that's what we do, and bring that aspect into it. And I know they'll be there. If I ask them to come, they're coming. They'll be coming and having some
Yeah.
fun, and we'll play some Frank Sinatra, and it'll be great.
There you
Yes,
go.
yes. Oh my gosh. Well, I want to pivot a little bit from this,
Sure.
and I want to bring up. Let's go back. Let's go way back to our childhood. We won't say how far, no. And I
Hmm.
want to talk about our third grade. Now, we may not have been in the same third grade class, but I do remember a story, and I want to make sure I'm saying it right. Is La Llorona? Is that right?
Llorona.
Llorona. Okay. Scared the scared the pee out of me. So, would you mind telling this story, the version that you heard, and what you've got?
It's these stories. When you kind of look at we hear a story passed down from our grandparents and parents, but if you actually look at the origins of these stories, it's like all these stories were there to scare kids into behaving,
Right.
right? And so La Llorona, for us, we called her the
Yep.
ditch witch because she was, where we live, in the middle Rio Grande Valley. We have all these acequias, all these ditches that bring water from Rio Grande to feed our
Mm-hmm.
crops. And so there's all these irrigation ditches up and down, like pretty much
Everywhere. Yeah.
everywhere. And and so the story goes that La Llorona, the weeping woman, she had some kids. The kids got into the river, they drowned. She wasn't able to save them, so now I don't want to say
She
prowls,
cries.
but hangs she hangs out by these different waterways, the river, the ditches, looking for her lost children. And we were told as kids, you know don't go out at night or don't go by the ditch because La Llorona is
It's
going to
gonna
get
take you.
you because she's looking for kids. And that's it's pretty powerful to be told that when you're
I
a little
stayed the
kid
heck
that they're
away
going to
from
come
it.
and get you.
Tell you that.
I think there was a movie that actually came out, like
There was.
a horror movie called Yacht. And when I watch it, I'm like, that is not as scary as what I grew up with because I think when you live it every single day,
Yes.
it's different than just watching it on the movie.
Yes.
But yeah, I've I know a lot of people that have had like experiences, seeing a woman, you know, by the river, by a ditch.
I'm
Um,
one of those people. I mean, I stayed
yeah,
away from the ditches, but I remember this one place, and it was in Bernalillo, and there was a big red barn, and I was walking along the ditch, and I felt the presence of someone come to the water. And I was older, okay? But my first
yeah,
thought was, she's gonna take you. It was stuck in my
right. Like I gotta
my
get out of
third
here
grade
fast.
brain. I was like, run.
They told me to stay away from here, and I'm
And
still
here I
and I'm
am.
here. Why am I here? No, yeah, but really though, it's just it's just kind of ingrained. Like we have the La Llorona, and then we also had the Kukui man. The Kukui man to us, you know, the origin story of that is this man had some kids. They're misbehaving. They put him in a closet. He forgot about him. Went into town. Came back. His house was on
Oh,
fire. and he lost his kids in the
Oh
fire.
my.
So again, to make us behave as children, you better behave, or the Kukui man's going to come and get you because he's looking for
Oh
kids.
my.
So it all kind of goes back to trying to just
No, I had not ever heard that one.
keep your kids. I mean, it's always the Kukui man, and it's always like it's the monster under your
Yeah.
bed. Growing up, and it's yeah, and again, something else just to scare
You
you as
know,
a child.
honestly, I had enough of my own scary stuff. Like I could see things on
Yeah.
my own, you know, like I saw ghosts, I saw things
Uh-huh.
walking around, and I don't know if you remember the weirdness that I was when we grew up, but I was always like, there's something over there, you know, and everybody would go look. And,
Uh-huh.
but it's just, I didn't need extra for sure. I didn't need
Right.
extra, but
Uh-huh.
you know, I can see why it's passed down for the safety or to scare kids into, you know, behave.
Behaving.
But
Hmm.
okay, so
And I mean, it works. They're still doing it
are
here,
they
so
really?
for years
Oh
and
my
years.
God,
And
are they
years.
still
Yeah.
teaching in elementary school? I
Yeah.
mean, come on.
I don't know if it's taught that way, but I mean,
It should be.
everybody's scared of the
It
ditch witch.
should be.
Yeah.
Now, there is
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
story that I didn't hear
Hmm.
in school, but I'm very familiar with because I've seen shapeshifters, skinwalkers. I've seen them.
Yeah.
And that's scary, isn't it? Do you have any experience with that?
It's I not personally, but I'm gonna tell you a story. So um, it's very prevalent here. Skinwalkers. In the Navajo reservation. I mean, it's just a big thing, and I can't remember what the word is, but it translates to person to 4 feet because they become
Mm-hmm.
animals. And there's a story that my uncle told me. He was a boy, and he was with other kids, and there was an owl that was perched up like on a telephone
Mm-hmm.
line, and they started throwing rocks at this owl, and the owl flew away. And about 5 minutes later, there's this old man walking down the road. He's rubbing his
Oh,
head and goes up to my uncle and he says, "Why did you hit me with a
oh
rock?"
my.
And walked away. So,
I believe that.
I think the owl was had had shifted, back to its human form. And, there were several people there. It's just like he wasn't just telling the story,
Yes.
but it kind of happened.
How interesting.
But yeah, and I think it happens more than we realize. Yeah, things happen, and they're just not talked about anymore. I
Yeah.
think, or if they happen, they don't make them as they don't bring them to light. I guess what's happening, but I definitely I can feel it sometimes. That there's just something that's not quite
Something
right.
lingering.
And based on what I read about skinwalkers too, I mean they're not always the nicest of beings. I mean they're there's some
There can be.
aura about
Yeah.
them. So
That was my experience.
cunning is a great word for that. Yeah.
So I was out with a boyfriend out in the middle of nowhere, and we had shut off all of the lights in the car, and it was up in Rio Rancho, way out in the dark. And all of a sudden, we both were like, someone's here. And I could feel that there was a person. He could feel there was someone. And I said, we have to go.
Hmm.
I'm like, there's something happening
Yeah.
here. And he's like, yep, we got to go. And he says, I think it's a skinwalker. And I said, we have to go now. So we started driving really quickly.
Hmm.
And to the side of us, like where the light was beaming off of the headlights, there was a
Uh-huh.
dog or a coyote running along the side of the car. And it kind of like lunged towards the car and like it was trying to get it. And I'm like, what in the
Yeah.
world? And he says, that's the skinwalker, you know? And I really, really felt I mean, you can't say that I didn't see a person, okay? I can't say that they transformed in front of my eyes. But
Mm-hmm.
what I can say is how I felt inside, and things were not quite right. you know?
They were not quite
Yeah.
right.
I mean,
Yep.
and we grew up where coyotes are
Yeah.
everywhere, right? There, and typically
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't scary. We're in the car, but this was a whole nother level. So I'm with your uncle there.
Yeah.
It's a little bit creepy.
And when he told me the story too, it was just like, it almost you almost got that sense of that fear
Mm-hmm.
that he had as a child, as in a grown man, and that's how the story was
Yeah.
told. So I'm like, how can I not believe that?
He's still scared
He
to this
felt it.
day.
He felt it.
That's
Hmm.
intense.
Yeah, right, right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Any other spooky stories or anything that you've come across yourself?
You know, um, so most of my family is from northern New Mexico, and most of us are
Mm-hmm.
Catholics. So you can't be, though, I think, from New Mexico and not be Catholic and have some type of, curandero witchcraft on the side, because it's just part of
Yes.
it, I think. And I'm really fortunate that there's this artist. His name is Nasario
Mm-hmm.
Garcia, and Nasario, he's from the Rio Perco Valley. That's just north of Albuquerque, and he grew up in, it's not even a town, a settlement really, that my dad's parents grew
Mm.
up in. And he was one of the first ones to get like a degree in from the area, and he moved to Spain for a while, and he came back, and he really wanted to, you know, get back to his roots
Right.
there in the Rio Perco Valley. So he started just interviewing people, all the viejitos, the old
Yes.
people, and asking them stories about when they were kids. And I'm really lucky that in there's a series of books, several books, that my family actually gave him some of
Oh,
these
that's so
stories.
cool.
And I was going through one of the books one day, and I came across my great grandmother's
Oh,
eulogy
wow.
was in there. And then people couldn't read or write. They had one person in the settlement in the town that was able to do so, so they would pay him, to write eulogies, write poems, write the love letter to your girlfriend. He would do that for you for a fee. And it was just being able to read it, and getting that sense of, she died, just months after, she gave birth.
Mm.
So she left, I think it was like eight or
Oh,
nine
wow.
children. So that was
Yes.
devastating for them, and to get that sense of um, of how it was then. But they also talked a lot about
Mm.
folklore and superstition, and just things that they were brought up with. Ya La Llorona was one
Mm-hmm.
of those. They also believed a lot in the power of prayer, but statuary saints, for
Yes.
example. And they would it was a very arid area, so they their life depended on growing beans,
Yep.
and having water for their sheep. I mean, they had to, having
Mm-hmm.
chili. And when the crops weren't growing and there was no rain coming, they would punish their saints. And there's a story that my uncle told, that there was this family in town, and some Native Americans from Oklahoma raided the
Mm-hmm.
area, and they actually kidnapped one of the boys from
Mm.
town, took him up to Oklahoma, and they thought that it was the saint's
Oh.
fault, so they punished the saint, and they dug out like a nicho, a hole in their wall, and they put the saint in there facing the wall, so backwards. They covered it with mud, and that was that. Several years had passed. The boy was gone, and they started noticing that the plaster or the mud on the wall was starting to crack.
Mm.
And one day, it just fell off, all of the mud, and the saint was turned around and it was facing
Oh
them.
my.
Around that same time, the boy always had an idea of where he came from. I mean, he had no sense of, exactly where he
Mm-hmm.
was. They didn't have maps or anything,
Right.
but he was actually given to the chief and his wife as a son. 'Cause they couldn't have children, and he told himself, "I'm going to get home. I'm going to get back one day." So one night he stole the horse and he took off and he came back home.
Wow.
Same exact time when that saint had flipped around, he was back in the town.
How interesting.
So it was just and just very. I mean, how do you
You
explain
can't.
it? But why would I lie about that?
Yeah.
And then there was stories where just there was there's one story where at that time when somebody would die, they would lay you out, on your coffee
Oh
table,
my.
and just kind of have you there. And before they buried you,
There
there was
wasn't really anywhere to
they
put you.
they weren't doing what they do now, and one of those uncles had fallen asleep in the room where the body was, and he woke up and he saw the tablecloth moving
What?
back and forth under this body, and he ran and to his parents and was crying, and they got mad at him because you're not supposed to be afraid of dead
Mm.
people. But he went in there. They all went in there, and sure enough, it was moving. And then they picked it up, and the dog had went under the table and was wagging its tail, and and it was moving the tablecloth. But he thought it
That's
was,
cute.
the dead person on top.
That's a good one.
So there's just all these stories of you know things that they believed in that we just we can't grasp anymore.
Yeah.
And just being able to have that connection is I'm very lucky. I'm very, very lucky
Yeah,
to have
those
that.
stories would be lost, and now you can share
Right.
those things with your family too, and just keep going with it.
Families and
And clearly people
hmm
that are listening today. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah,
How interesting. I think traditions and stories, we need to remember that the oral traditions need to live on. We have to be able
hmm
to share those things
right.
with, sure, you can look stuff up on the internet, but there's something to be said for sharing experiences and individual stories
hmm
because they're priceless, you know?
They are priceless. And I wish I would have did more of that with like my
Me
grandparents.
too.
Now and I don't have any grandparents now. And I did my best to ask them
Yeah.
questions. About growing up in Bernalillo and how things were and how they look at life now. And but I wish I was in this mindset that I am
Yeah.
today, and I would have just asked and asked and asked and just pestered them to give me some information because I want it,
Yeah.
because it's I'm I'm choosing to know about my ancestry, to keep it tradition alive, culture alive, do and start new traditions like Dia de los Muertos. I mean, I'm choosing to do that, but if I don't, if I didn't choose to do that, then you know, the people that are coming up are not going to have an idea of where we come from, where we've been, where are we going,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's why I do it.
I love that. I think it's very special, and you've inspired me. I saw it last year when you put it up, and how it moved you and how your heart. I could feel it through the words that you put
Hmm.
out there, and that's why I asked you to come and talk about it today, because I could just feel the
Yeah,
energy that you put into it, and I'm really grateful that you do it because I think you are making differences with one person at a time who's being, who's
yeah.
seeing that. So keep doing you. you know.
Yeah. Talking about being a certain age, I'm not the age that I'm just like, I'm going to do whatever feels right to me,
That's
and
right. That's right.
whether it's putting up, you know, giving a shot of tequila to my my dead father,
Yes.
or you know, um, anything that just doesn't seem that's part of the norm. It just enriches your
It
life,
does.
and that's what I'm all about.
Totally does. Now, you mentioned, and it's in your bio, that you sing. Do you have anything upcoming in New Mexico?
Mhm.
That, because I know people are interested in different stuff. So tell me what you got coming up.
Yeah. So we're one chorus for the whole state, and I became a member of this by happenstance, if you
Mm-hmm.
will, and it's been great, and we have an artistic director that is doing things like singing all Spanish music.
Wow.
That doesn't happen a
No.
lot, and he's looking and he looks at our culture and he's like, what can I do to enhance that, and not just sing songs, but actually have make people feel at our concerts. And this year, now in the spring, actually, we're doing a tour of in New
Oh,
Mexico. We're going to, I think, 4 colleges, and we're going to sing songs from Harvey Milk.
okay. I'm not familiar.
So Harvey Milk is, and I really need to get myself educated on this, but and I think he was the mayor of San Francisco at one
Okay.
point, and I think they have a whole. I don't know if there was like a group of songs that were built around his life, or if there was an actual like a production or
Okay.
something. But we're doing that, and New Mexico is pretty
Yeah.
liberal, but there's some parts of the state that are
Right.
not, and so for us going out there and just kind of bringing our music to people they're not used to seeing gay people around.
Yeah.
It's going to be exciting. And then we're actually going to be at Pope Joy next
Ooh,
June. Pope Joy in Albuquerque is like our big
that
is a
is a
big
big
venue in
venue.
Albuquerque, and we're doing all Elton John
Oh, how
songs.
cool!
So it's going to be campy. It's going to be
Yes, it
fun.
will.
And right now our membership is nearing 80
Wow,
members,
that's great.
and it's our 44th season. So for 44 seasons, we've been doing this, and yeah, it's just been really fun. And what I like about this group too is it's not just gay men. We have straight people. We have a woman in our chorus. As long as they can sing the parts, they're part
Yeah.
of it. And just another aspect of just feeling
Yeah.
connected. You have your community, but they're like-minded
And
people,
supportive and
and so
loving.
it's supportive. And when I talk about things like Dia de los Muertos, they don't give me that weird side eye. They're like, oh, that's cool, you're doing that, because
Uh,
it's part of who I
I love
am.
that. And
Yeah.
I love that you're just putting yourself out there entirely for you.
Yeah.
And I've always I've always admired you. I don't think that that's any different from the Mario that I remember. Like, I remember you from a
uh
kid, and you were always you, and you didn't pretend to be anybody else. I never saw that. And so I think just keep shining, just keep shining your light, and the world will see, keep going.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for telling your stories today and sharing your history. And
I'm Thank you for having me. I mean, when I when I kind of first heard that you were doing this, through Facebook stalking as well, I was like, maybe one day she'll ask me to do something,
how
and it
funny.
came to fruition. So yeah,
Oh, there it is. There's
yeah.
where it came from. Okay.
Mhm.
We've got
You
that
know,
connection.
I put you put it out there. You put it out there. Sometimes it comes back to
That's
you. So
true. That's so true. All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
it was so good
Good
talking
talking
to
to
you.
you too.